West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
Yes, you do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Are you ready? Are you ready for a big Thursday show? Well, here we go. Thursday, July 9. Hello, everybody. Great to see you today. for the Bill Press Show on Free Speech TV nationwide and worldwide. On our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKRTV. How about it? The Confederate flag is gone. Or at least soon will be. South Carolina House of Representatives yesterday voting 94 to 20 to take down the flag. That bill now goes to Governor Nikki Haley, who, of course, will sign it, and the flag will soon be in the museum where it belongs. Well, is your computer working? If your computer was working yesterday, it may be the only one that was. Computer glitches shutting down within hours, shutting down United Airlines, shutting down the New York Stock Exchange, and shutting down the Wall Street Journal's website. But the Department of Homeland Security says there was no cyber attack. It was just a big coincidence. Meanwhile, yes, NBC may have fired Donald Trump, but that didn't stop them from giving him at least 10 minutes on their news last night in a very contentious interview during which Donald Trump insisted that some of his best friends are Mexicans. He refused to back down on any of his comments about immigration. And he also bragged that he will get the Latino vote. He also said that Hillary Clinton was the worst Secretary of State ever, which is kind of strange because last year he said she was the best Secretary of State ever. But why should we expect Donald Trump to be consistent? All of that and more you're going to want to talk about, so get ready to jump into the conversation. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show. And on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Our Thursday show underway. Thanks for being part of it.
This is the Bill Press Show.
We came here to Foster City, where we're going to watch UC Berkeley, a University of California SWAT team, do a hostage rescue scenario.
Should I put the water in there now? Yeah, go ahead.
This is like some kind of chemical agent?
Yeah. Copy, we're ready. I'm gonna get shot. I already know it, dude. Fiend's yelling at me.
Help me. Your hands. Help me. Your hands. Back away.
Gentlemen, we have a chemical. We need to pull our person out. Get these guys out of here. Pull them out. Put your hands on your face. Put your hands on your face. Keep him covered.
Your head up. He's got a shotgun back there.
That's all right. Keep his hands up where we can.
Hands on your face.
Hands on your face. On your face.
Someone cover me. I got a holster up, bro.
Okay, pull him around the corner. Pick him up. Get him out of the building. Quickly. We've got this. Let's get that guy out of there. You, come towards us. Keep your hands on your face. Turn around. Face away from us. Back towards us. Quickly. Back up towards me. Quickly. Pull him out of the room.
We're exfilling, Billy?
Yes, we are exfilling.
It's actually around 92, 94, there was an attack on the chancellor at his residence, which is on campus. And we realized at the time that we didn't have any resources to deal with that kind of threat when it took place. So, and I think about 15 years before, they had some kind of semblance of a SWAT team. So they regenerated the idea of activating a SWAT team.
And then since then, you guys have kind of branched out to doing what kind of stuff?
Well, since then, we train for everything. We train for every eventuality, barricaded subjects. Like I said, most of what we do is high-risk warrants.
And it's something like it could be like a mugging kind of thing, just like on the street.
Depends.
Or
I mean,
like
a mugging, but if it's armed, particularly.
Right, an armed mugging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then obviously we're looking for training for anything else.
Yeah.
That we might be faced with, and that's what's great about Urban Shield is we couldn't duplicate this on our own.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
The Confederate flag is gone, or soon will be. The South Carolina House of Representatives yesterday voting 93 to 27. Joining the state Senate and voting to take down the flag, Governor Nikki Haley will sign that bill if she hasn't already done so. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Here we go. It is a big Thursday, July 9. So great to see you today. It's the Bill Press Show coming to you live from Washington, D.C., as always, our nation's capital, and booming out to you worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV, booming out to you nationwide on Free Speech TV, and booming out to you nationwide on the radio, on your local progressive talk radio station, wherever you happen to be in this great land of ours. Tune in to your local progressive talk radio station if you've got one. If not, find us on one of the two great radio apps, either the TuneIn app or iHeartRadio. We're on both of them, and you can find us there, and look forward to hearing from you today. You know how it goes. We have the next 3 hours to talk about the news of the day with you and with some of our guests. You join the conversation by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS or sending your comments on Twitter at BP Show or on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Peter Ogburn is off for a couple of days, so we got the rest of the team here. Lisa Murphy.
Hey, good morning. I think Peter actually went down for that big vote last night.
I think he was there. I think
Peter. That's why he's on assignment.
Yeah. Well, he was going to Charleston, and maybe he ran up to Columbia and, brought it across the line there. Very good. We'll give him credit for it at any rate. Jamie Benson is here to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And Cyprian Bolding also enjoying a couple of days vacation. Peter, I think, is trying to catch up with Cyprian, but he'll never do it. Cyprian takes too much time off. But Monty Kanzler is here as our videographer and keeping us looking good on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV. Boy, I got to tell you, the big news yesterday, it looked like for a while everything was shutting down. It was weird that, like, within hours of each other, almost happening at the very same time, United Airlines shut down 4,900 flights around the world.
Unbelievable.
An hour because of some computer glitch with a router. Then flash headline, I was working at my desk, flash headline, the New York Stock Exchange is shutting down. And I thought, oh my God, what is this? Another crash, right? Like the Great Depression? No, it was another computer glitch. And then we learned that the Wall Street Journal website shut down. Computer glitch. Everybody, including myself, said, oh my God, a big cyber attack. Well, it wasn't that. Conan O'Brien, who is broadcasting from Comic-Con in San Diego, told us why they weren't able to fix this any sooner.
Big news, though. There was big national news today. The New York Stock Exchange, did you hear this, was shut down today for 4 hours due to a technical glitch. Yes, that's a true story. Yeah. They would have fixed it sooner, but unfortunately, all the people who know how are here at Comic-Con.
That is probably very true.
Could have been a quick save there.
All the nerds were out there. All the nerds were in San Diego, indeed. Hey, lots going on today. We will Carolyn Maloney, great congresswoman from New York's 12th congressional district, is going to be along a little bit later. We've got reporters in from Politico and the National Journal. Brad Woodhouse, the president of American Bridge, big defender of Hillary Clinton, will be here in studio with us. And we'll be talking to Stephanie Miller, your favorite talk show host and mine, Stephanie Miller, who has a new book out and, of course, host of the Stephanie Miller Show, otherwise known as the Sexy Liberal, the sexiest of liberals. Stephanie Miller joining us a little bit later. Great fun. And we will get right to the news of the day. Just want to point out,
this is the Full Court Press.
Well, it's not really the full court press. It's the mini court press in Peter's absence. But Peter, we've talked the last couple of days about the player for the New York fireworks, right?
Yes. The 4th of July just happened.
For the New York Giants, it looks like he's going to lose a finger now. It's because of playing with fireworks.
Well, lost a lot more than that with that contract.
And then he lost, yes, exactly. They decided they weren't going to go forward with a $60 million contract with him.
Ouch.
Because he proved to be such a dumb jerk. And we talked about the gentleman who decided, alcohol involved, of course, that he was going to set off a mortar fire rocket from his head. He did. He died as a result of that. Now we are reported this morning, yet another man, this time in Texas, was setting off fireworks with friends along the Colorado River when he decided also he put a large tube-shaped firework, one of these great things, on his chest.
On his chest.
Lay down, put it on his chest, and ignited it. It went off, of course, and he suffered serious burns and has since died as a result of that. So, I just hope that these three idiots are a lesson. Don't play with fireworks. Don't buy fireworks. Fireworks are dangerous. Let the professionals handle it. Go out on your deck. Go out on the beach. Go down in the park and watch the professional fireworks show. And then stay away from them, and certainly keep your kids away from them. And don't set them off from your body.
What would possess someone to think that they could do that is unbelievable.
Yeah, right. Seriously, I think they ought to ban the sale of fireworks and let the professionals handle it. I love fireworks. I'm not saying ban fireworks, ban the private sale of them. But, man, I was up in Rhode Island. You see these stores, they're selling them all over the place.
They're everywhere.
Oh, yeah. And with fire danger, too, this year. In some cities, they actually banned them because of that. So, anyway, lesson learned, one would hope. We'll see. And here's a lesson learned, too. In fact, I got a big question for you this morning to start off with. Maybe you saw the interview, Donald Trump last night on NBC, or certainly heard about it. And here we are talking about Trump again. And the question is, very simply, should the media in general be covering Donald Trump as much as the media is covering Donald Trump? Does he deserve all of that attention? Or should the media just ignore him and hope he'll go away? 866-55-PRESS is the toll-free number, 866-55-77-377. Now, I got to tell you, this, I've been thinking about this for quite a while, but what really brought it to my attention this morning is an article in Politico by our good friend Dylan Byers, now used to live right down the street here from the studio, now based out in Los Angeles. And Dylan points out, as an example of how much coverage Donald Trump is getting, that back when Donald Trump was talking about, there were rumors he might run for president, Jeff Zucker, the president of CNN, put out the word to his producers, don't cover Trump. Don't bother. Just ignore him because he's just a clown. Well, then Trump, and he's not going to run. He always teases, and he's not going to run. Then, June 16, Trump announces for president. Get this. Since then, since June 16, CNN has given, this story was published yesterday, and according to the Nexus search that Dylan Byers did for Politico, since June 16, CNN has covered Donald Trump more than 400 times.
That's unreal.
On television, right? They just did a big thing with Anderson Cooper interviewing him. 400 times on television and on its website. That is more coverage on CNN than CNN has given to Jeb Bush, to Marco Rubio, to Scott Walker, or any of the other Republican candidates. That is more coverage than CNN has given to Hillary Clinton. More coverage than anybody else to Donald Trump. And it's not just CNN. NBC may have fired Donald Trump, but did you see? I watched the NBC News last night. They had about 10 minutes in the top of the news with Donald Trump and the interview that he gave to Katie Tur of NBC. So they fired him. Then they went out and did this interview with him, letting him spew all kinds of stuff, basically running roughshod over Katie Tur and saying some crazy stuff. Here's his take. By the way, he admitted he hasn't been down to the border for 3 years, but he said it doesn't make any difference. It's worse now than it was the last time he was there.
It was terrible then, and it's worse now. It's worse now than it's ever been. We don't even have a border. People are just flowing through like water. There is no border right now, and we're taking them and we're putting them in our jails and our hospitals, and we're paying them money through different sources. It's a disgrace.
You know, and the truth is, he is dead wrong. Dead wrong. There are far fewer people coming across the border now than there ever have been. And, I mean, since this whole problem with illegal immigration started. In fact, last year, there were more people deported. There were more people who went south than came north. So, I mean, but when did having the facts ever prove to be a problem for Donald Trump? And I'll tell you, is he sorry about his comments about Mexicans? No. In fact, some of his best friends are Mexicans.
I have many people working for me. You can look at the job in Washington. I have many legal immigrants working for me. Many of them come from Mexico. They love me. I love them. And I'll tell you something. If I get the nomination, I'll win the Latino vote. I will win it because I'm going to create jobs.
Win the Latino vote. I mean, it's just crazy stuff.
The idea that bashing people would win you votes is pretty absurd.
Right, right. And what are we going to do about ISIS? Yeah, here's what I'll do about ISIS, right? I just got to go right, bomb the hell out of them, take their oil.
With ISIS, you kill them at the head, you take the oil. That's where they're getting their money. If you bomb the hell out of it, you bomb the hell out of it. You've got to stop their wealth.
Then the weirdest exchange, maybe, was over guns. I mean, she's trying to get his position on gun control, and all he wants to talk about is he's got one, he's got a license for it.
I have a license to have a gun. Yes, I do.
Do you own one?
Yes, I do.
Do you use it? Gun range?
It's none of your business. It's really none of your business. I have a license to have a gun.
Gun control.
What are you talking about?
Or
you asked me if I have a gun.
Yes,
I have a gun.
Checks.
Excuse me. Yes, I have a gun, and yes, I have a permit to have a gun.
Stronger background checks. What about that? Is there any steps that you would take to make it harder to get a gun in this country?
The problem is, once you get into that, you start getting into a situation, the slippery slope, where all of a sudden you're going to really violate the Second Amendment. So
I won't say anything about it, right? No, on guns, no, not an inch of open-minded, if you will, on gun safety or gun safety measures. He just wants to brag about the fact that he has a gun. And finally, he takes a whack at Hillary Clinton.
I think Hillary would be a terrible president. She was the worst Secretary of State in the history of our nation. Why would she be a good president? Jeb Bush will never take us to the promised land. He doesn't have it. Hillary will never take us. Hillary will be a disaster as a president.
All right, just stop
we
right
need
there. Hillary
somebody
will be a disaster as a president. Last year, he said that Hillary Clinton was one of the best, if not the best, Secretary of State that we have ever had. well, that was last year. Now it's this year. So
that doesn't really help him now, does it?
That's going to come back and bite him in the butt as well. So the question, we come back, the point is he's getting all this media attention. CNN, NBC, everywhere you look. And the question is, should the media be covering him? And you know what? I say absolutely yes. No, there's no way around it. And let me just give you my reason. I want to hear from you, 866-55-PRESS. First of it is, it's not up to us in the media to decide who's serious and who's not. Look, he's crazy. He is absolutely freaking crazy, right? He says all kinds of outrageous things and colorful things, and so he does make for good media fodder. You got to admit that. But also, he is ranking, as crazy as it is, number 2 in a couple of national polls. National polls. He's also rated number 2 in Iowa and in New Hampshire. So we may think he's crazy. We know he's crazy. But it's not up to us to decide who's serious and who's not. That's up to the voters. And if the voters are saying, as racist and as crazy as the stuff he's saying is, if the voters are saying they're going to vote for him, I think we have an obligation to cover him. You can't get around it. So it makes for good fodder for the media. People may bitch about it, but they watch him. They like watching him because he'll always say something outrageous. He is running ahead of everybody else except Jeb Bush in the national polls, Iowa and New Hampshire. And the other thing is, I think he says a lot about the Republican Party. And the fact that the Republican Party still embraces him. He's a candidate. He's going to be on stage in the first debate. He's going to be on the ballot in all 50 states. I think all that, you hear him say all of that stuff that says that's sort of exposing what the Republican Party really is all about. So cover Donald Trump. I say, the more coverage, the better for Donald Trump. Let people see what the Republican Party really stands for. 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it here on this Thursday, July 9. Want to hear from you. Should the media be giving Donald Trump so much attention?
This is the Bill Press Show.
Silicon Valley's Santa Clara County is often portrayed as a role model for the rest of the country. The county has some of the highest salaries and most expensive real estate in America, thanks in large part to the phenomenal success of tech companies such as Google, Yahoo, Intel, Adobe, and of course Apple, the nation's wealthiest and most profitable company. But Santa Clara County also has a more unseemly distinction. I'm standing near downtown San Jose, inside what is by some accounts the largest homeless encampment in America. The jungle, as it's known, occupies a 65-acre stretch of creek where about 300 people live in makeshift structures. It's less of a homeless encampment than a full-blown shantytown.
This being the largest homeless encampment in the United States, and with us having Silicon Valley with Steve Jobs and all this cash, we're not supposed to have this kind of homeless problem. You know what I mean?
I done been shot with a pellet gun like 4 times, attacked with baseball bats, my house set on fire.
This is like hell on earth. I mean, this is like something you will not see. You have to see to believe, actually. It's like fourth world conditions.
Hi, have you ever heard of a place called The Jungle? Sorry? A place called The Jungle, have you heard of it?
We're not making enough money really for conventional homes or housing, and we make too much money for subsidized homes. So we're kind of, floating between the oil and the water.
We told the landlady here if it would be possible to continue staying here, and she said, no, you gotta go. I already rented it out. We went and loaded things into a storage facility, and it's still there. And all the campgrounds and things that we saw were too far out of the city, like KOAs and that sort of thing. So what we decided to do was to move into the jungle. So that's what we did.
A few days ago, a woman named Lydia Hernandez was robbed inside of her tent. When she refused to hand over the money, the robbers slit her throat. When she still fought back, they bashed her head with an axe. She died a few hours later. Residents say that the police never come into the jungle, so they have to fend for themselves.
There's no law down there except our own, right? There's no law. So we could smoke dope all day in the open. The dope dealers ain't scared because, they're secure.
We go to the Fairmont Hotel and have a brunch or do a philanthropy. That's not going to cut it. We need billions of dollars to go into the inner cities and go into the jungle. Silicon Valley, the Bay Area is known for its innovation, its progressive thinking. It's one of the most progressive pockets in the United States, if not the world, and certainly one of the wealthiest. If we can't do it here, it won't happen anywhere. It's got to happen here.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, talking media coverage of Donald Trump. It is almost wall-to-wall. Every show you see that talks politics at all has a story about Trump. And most media outlets have scored an interview with Donald Trump. He's hardly playing the Hillary Clinton game of waiting for 4 months and then just giving one interview. But what struck me most yesterday was the fact that NBC that fired him Lester Holt ran the entire interview with Katie Tur, and a big excerpt from it anyhow. At least, I would say, 5 minutes. And then he had Katie Tur and Chuck Todd on afterwards to talk about the interview.
It was an hour long, the one I saw midday.
Is that right? I know,
yeah.
Yeah. Anyhow, your questions, your comments, should the media be giving him so much coverage? I know you had comments on Twitter.
If you want to follow us, we're on Twitter at BP Show. Suki weighed in saying, Donald Trump is a train wreck, the car pile up. You know you shouldn't watch, but you just can't stop.
That's kind of the way it is. Joe's up in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. What do you say, Joe?
Hi, Bill.
Hi.
I say it's fantastic that he's getting all this media coverage. What it's doing is bringing the independents, the moderate Republicans, looking at him and seeing the response he gets from the rest of the GOP, and basically it's guilt by association. It couldn't be better for progressives.
For progressive, no. Yeah, I made that point earlier. I agree with you. I think that he exposes sort of the ugly underbelly of the Republican Party, the fact that so many people are flocking to him. What does it say about the Republican Party that he is number 2 in the national polls? More Trump talk, 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Officer, were you the one who arrested me? You gonna shake my hand? So I got invited to host a vigil called Carry the Names. And that's what they were doing, carrying the names of the people who were victims of deadly police force. Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Akai Gurley. I got a motion from Dragonfly from Stop Shopping Choir, and I started preaching. I preached up a storm as best I could, but about a minute and a half into my sermon, the place was flooded with police, Homeland Security, National Guard, state troopers, and I was pushed over and handcuffed so fast, down in the jail, down in the basement. Before you know it, I was out the door, put in prison overnight. The next morning, I'm in court. The same thing happens. I'm just rushed out of there. Then our lawyer, Wiley Steckler, gives me this iPhone. And there, in black and white, in the Gothamist, a popular paper,
is this charge by Adam Lisberg, the MTA law enforcement spokesperson for this grand place. His quote is that I, Reverend Billy, physically attacked a police officer. Unbelievable. The feeling of being robbed of my work and life and identity, just the fiction. I did not touch anybody. I did not look. I know how to do this. I'm trained in nonviolence. I did not do anything. It was right here. It was right here. It happened right here. I was simply arrested while I was speaking and taken away, and that's it. The cold feeling in my city, the city that I love, that city spokespersons whose salary I pay for with my taxes, that they would say this. I can just feel the rending apart of the community, that we are not that close. We're not. They are willing to say this, and they think that they can just say anything about anybody and get away with it. So we have something in the Church of Stop Shopping called radical forgiveness. Amen?
Cops and bankers love their children.
I forgive the police.
We gotta love them too. Cops and bankers love their mothers.
But I'll stay radical.
Mothers love their brothers. We gotta love them too.
But we'll wake up every morning forgiving each other, reaching out, touching, telling stories, having humor, being in a community together, sharing our children, sharing the streets, sharing the climate, being in the city together. But forgiving each other, being grateful to each other, helping each other out, living together, living together.
I got a daughter just turned 4. What do we do in the superstore? What do we do with the blood and the gore? The water's rising through our door. Love our children too. Love our children too.
Amen. Earth-alleluia.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
You bet it is. 33 minutes after the hour. Happy Thursday, folks. Hope you're having a good one here. It's Thursday, July 9. This is The Bill Press Show. We are here in Washington, D.C., a very sultry, rainy, almost tropical Washington, D.C. these days. Where it's 33 minutes after the hour. We're in our studio on Capitol Hill, and we're brought to you today by the National Education Association and their president, Lily Eskelsen Garcia, the great men and women of the NEA, the teachers of America on the front lines every day in America's classrooms, doing a great job taking care of our children and grandchildren. We salute them for the work and thank them for their support. And you can find out more about their good work at NEA.org. Talking about Donald Trump and the media coverage, as extensive as it is. Should the media be giving Donald Trump so much coverage? You've heard me say, I think the media, yes, should, and in fact doesn't have any choice. Just one final word on that before we move on. The editor of the Washington Post is quoted in that Politico article I mentioned by Dylan Byers. Mr. Ginsburg, I'm just looking here, lost his first name there for just a second. At any rate, he told Dylan Byers that it would be a dereliction of journalistic duty if the media did not cover Donald Trump because of the fact that he is getting such such a response in the public opinion polls. Again, the editor of the Post told Dylan Byers, Trump's rise in the polls speaks to his appeal. But it also says a lot about America in the summer of 2015. Who are the people that are attracted to him? Why are they so attracted to him? And here's the question that I've been raising too, and Sam from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania raised as well. What does that say about the Republican Party? Stephen Ginsburg, who's the senior political editor at the Washington Post, to Politico this morning. You can't ignore the fact that as crazy as the stuff that he's saying, it's just absolutely, stunning and shocking, some of the stuff that he's saying. He is still drawing number 2 in the national polls among Republican candidates and number 2 in Iowa and New Hampshire. And that is not just because of name recognition. There's more going on than that. There's also more going on in the country than that. Your comments on Trump always welcome at 866-55-PRESS. But the other big news, the big news and welcome news out of South Carolina yesterday is that after a long day of debate and drama in the House of Representatives, the South Carolina House did vote to take down the Confederate flag, joining the state Senate in their vote, and it ended up being a very lopsided vote. But what a long day. I mean, there was so much going on. At one point, there were all kinds of amendments offered by people who wanted, by flag supporters, the battle flag supporters, were offering amendments. The purpose of the amendments is they were trying to derail the legislation, or if they amended it, it meant it would have to go back to the Senate and be debated again. So that was a stalling tactic. Then there were dozens of amendments offered. Each one of them was voted down. At one point, they took a break, and the Republicans held a caucus, invited the governor in, and she repeated her plea, take this flag down. That's what you need to do. The Democrats are solidly there for taking the flag down. The Republicans were split, but most Republicans ended up voting with the Democrats. So they had they broke for the caucus. And then at another point, they took a break, and a whole bunch of legislators got in black SUVs and went down the road about a mile to the Confederate Museum, because the museum director had promised, you take the flag down, I'll have a great big prominent display inside the museum where the flag will be shown. It's not going to be hidden away in a closet somewhere. So these guys, they went down, Republicans and Democrats together, to take a look at the museum to see where the flag would be displayed in the museum. Then they came back. They continued their debate. At about 11:30 last night, there was a move to adjourn for the day. We've had enough. It's been a long day. That was defeated. And finally, I think it was about 2 o'clock this morning.
It was a long day.
They finally had the final vote, and the final vote came down 93 to 27 to take the flag down from the state capitol grounds in Columbia, South Carolina, joining the state Senate. That legislation is now on Governor Haley's desk. I don't know whether she's out of bed yet this morning, but I would imagine that the first thing she's going to do today is to sign that bill and do it with a lot of fanfare. But what a great sea change that we have seen in just a couple of weeks since that horrible massacre down at Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston, South Carolina. Members of the state legislature did themselves proud, I think, last night for reiterating many reasons why the flag should come down. Here is Democratic Representative Justin Bamberg.
When these major industries take issue with the flag and they want it down, that's just more evidence that it needs to come down, and it needs to come down now.
Yep, just one more factor, the solid business opposition across the Southland and across the nation to getting rid of any semblance of the Confederate flag, whether it be on license plates or on clothing or on state flags or the display of the flag on the state capitol grounds. Representative Gilda, another Democratic representative, Gilda Cobb Hunter, says, sort of referring back to the eulogy for State Senator and Reverend Clementa Pinckney when President Obama sang Amazing Grace. She said, let's get all this goodwill and grace talk and put it into action now.
With all of the conversations we've had about goodwill, grace, mercy, and all of that we could not get enough members in this body to put their money where their mouth is.
Put the money where the mouth is and take down the flag. And Representative James Smith, I thought, really summed it up when he said, look, this is the time. Let's not lose this moment.
It was right to remove the Confederate flag from the State House on the grounds before June 17, 2015. And for the same reasons, it's right to do it today. And for the sake of all in our state, let's don't lose this moment.
And they did not lose this moment. They really stood up and made a great, great move yesterday. So the state of South Carolina didn't do it as fast as Tennessee did, where the governor just gave the order to take it down. But we've talked so much about this and the reasons for taking it down. I mean, yes, for some people it may have been a symbol of their heritage, but it was a symbol of division, and for many, many, many millions of Americans, a symbol of racial hatred and a sad reminder of an ugly period in our history. One more quick comment here before we move on. Cliff from Claremore, right? Claremore, that's Oklahoma. Correct. What do you say, Cliff? Thanks for checking in.
Oh, not much. I'm just glad that they finally removed the flag.
Yeah.
I mean, it just seems like that's the kind of stuff that gives good Southerners a black eye. And I'm not a Southerner myself. I'm from the West Coast, but my dad grew up in Texas, and I have two cousins that, I have several cousins that grew up in Oklahoma. So I would have to say that, Southerners are nice, decent people.
They're great
and it's
people.
Just the kind of stuff that really gives other people from outside the South the wrong impression of what Southerners are all about.
I think that's an excellent point. Absolutely. That's why this is good for South Carolina, which is a great state. I love going down there. I love going to Charleston. That's where Peter Ogburn is today. But that's good. I love going to the South. I love the people down there. Love the food down there. Been all throughout the South, and this unfortunately was for many people their view of the South, and taking down the flag helps South Carolina and helps improve the image and reputation of the entire South. Cliff, absolutely excellent point. With that, we will put a period on that conversation. And Alex Roarty is standing by from the National Journal to join us next. National Journal Hotline on the Bill Press Show this Thursday, July 9.
This is the Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
On a Thursday, July 9, 13 minutes before the top of the hour, news this week that yet another Republican is going to jump into the 2016 presidential race. By the time they all get in, that would make 17, but who says that's the end of it? Man, it keeps somebody like Alex Roarty, the chief political correspondent for the National Journal Hotline, busy night and day, just keeping track of the candidates. How you doing, Alex?
I'm doing all right, Bill. How are you?
All right. Thanks so much for joining us, man.
Of course.
I mean, so Jim Gilmore, the perennial Republican candidate, jumping back in. But I think the most interesting political news of the day is that John Kasich, governor of Ohio, is starting to running ads in New Hampshire today. They're starting to run today, and he hasn't even announced for president yet. This is a new strategy.
It's a new strategy, and it's one I think you have to think is brought on at least in part by the debate rules, or I should really say the qualifications for the first Republican debate.
Good point.
And Kasich is a guy who I think, look, you know, on the list of, you know, he's on the short list of people who could actually win the Republican nomination. He's also on the short list of people who could bow out of this thing by November. Right now, I mean, there is a pretty huge gap between what's possible here for the governor. But you know, the other interesting part of that, you know, he's running ads through his nonprofit group, which basically means he doesn't have to disclose any of the donors. That's another not necessarily new feature of the 2016. But these are the kind of groups that are much more prominent now than they were in the last presidential
primary. All right,
primary.
you alluded to, let's make sure all of our listeners understand and viewers that you alluded to the August 6th debate, the first debate, GOP debate in Cleveland, carried by Fox News, correct?
That is correct.
And how many candidates on stage, and how do they get there?
I believe it's just the top 10 candidates, and
based on
polling. Based on, if I remember correctly, the three most recent national polls, I think they averaged them together Now, any professional pollster will tell you that's not exactly a great methodology. And a lot of them have started to speak out about, look, particularly, for, 7, 8, 9, and 10, there's not going to be really any difference between them and the people who finish 11th, 12th, and 13th.
Right.
The differences are minute and perhaps unfair, but regardless, again, that's why you see candidates like Kasich and his allies starting to run ads now and to try to boost their name ID, get themselves in the conversation now. Because there's a real fear if you're not on stage for that first debate, you're toast. More or less.
I can see that. I mean, if you're not there for the first debate, how are you going to be? What are you going to have to do to get there for the second, right? If the same rules apply for the second.
And we saw this just in the 2012 Republican primary. And the debates were basically half the ball game.
Absolutely.
So many people rose, and then consequently, so many people fell because of their performance in the debate. And look, if it's almost like you have to have money to make money. In this case, if you want to be in that top 10, that's really the only way to keep rising in the polls in this case, because you've got to be on stage for that debate.
All right, so that raises the question of the hour, which is there any way, or is there any doubt that Donald Trump will be on that stage, or any way they could keep him off the stage?
There is, I think, at this point, no doubt that he'll be on stage. I don't know that there is an objective way to keep him off. One of a colleague of mine has floated the idea of anyone who has donated to a Hillary Clinton campaign should be banned, which would preclude Donald Trump from participating. But not only is he almost guaranteed a spot. I mean, he is inching up toward the front runner in the polls. Now, I don't mean to say that he is the front runner, the most likely person to be the Republican nominee by any stretch. But in a divided field, and because he has essentially universal name ID, he polls better than a lot of candidates right now. So there's almost no way that they can keep him off the debate stage.
On the Senate side, we're talking with Alex Roarty from the Hotline, National Journal Hotline at nationaljournal.com. The Nevada race is shaping up to be one of the most interesting ones. What's the latest there to take Harry Reid's place?
Well, a congressman from the 3rd District, just basically the suburbs of Las Vegas, said, and what's been a long-expected decision, that he is going to run for Harry Reid's old seat. And this sets up, maybe one of the top, Joe Heck.
Joe Heck, right.
Who's a 3-term congressman. And it sets up maybe one of the 3 or 4 best, most important Senate races of next year. This is maybe the Republican Party's, it's certainly their best opportunity to pick up a Senate seat next year. It might be their only opportunity, as a matter of fact. And it's a big deal. I mean, you're going to have so many Republicans keen to send Harry Reid out in defeat, just for personal reasons. But to me, it's also a great test of, can the Republicans win Hispanic-heavy states? No battleground in 2016 is projected to have a higher share of the Latino vote than Nevada.
And who is the Democratic nominee, or do we know, or is it
it's someone that Harry Reid has essentially handpicked, Catherine Cortez Masto, who's the former Attorney General, who is trying to become the first Latina senator in the country's history. So you can see the challenge ahead of Heck.
Right. That's going to be a hugely important and a hard-fought race for sure. Yeah. Hey, Alex, thanks so much for checking in with us today. Good to have you on board.
Yep, as always, Bill. Thank you.
Talk to you again soon. Thanks. Alex Roarty from the Hotline. Great way to keep up with all the political happenings in the country. Watch the Hotline at nationaljournal.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000. I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan. And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately I've been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Steve Shepard, the campaign and elections editor for Politico, joins us in studio in the next hour. We'll also be talking with Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney of New York. Big loss for Washington's football team yesterday. A judge in a trademark in the Patent and Trademark Office has said that the Redskins, that's their name, hate the name, but they have lost their trademark protection because that name is so offensive to Native Americans that the trademark as protection has been taken away from them. They can still call themselves that, but no longer have trademark protection.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I'm a Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governor should come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people had lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us,
Then what do you have? Exactly what we got. A lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. Not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself, blood pressure, or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor's allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for. I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians are ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed to where we're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
It's official. Early this morning, vote in the South Carolina House of Representatives. Yes, the Confederate flag is coming down. The House voting 93 to 27 to take down the flag. Governor Haley will sign that legislation. Hello, everybody. That bit of good news starts us off today on this Thursday, July 9. So good to see you. And thank you for joining us on your local progressive talk radio station nationwide, coast to coast. Thank you for joining us on Free Speech TV and all around the world. Thank you for joining us wherever you happen to be on this great planet. Thank you for joining us on our video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKRTV. It's the Thursday edition of the Bill Press Show with lots of happening. Yes, and not only the fact that the flag is coming down in South Carolina, in South Carolina and throughout the South. Not only the fact that Donald Trump just can't stop talking about immigrants. Every time he talks, the situation is worse and worse and worse in his viewpoint at any rate. And President Obama, busy meetings down at the White House and waiting for final word from Vienna on an Iran nuclear deal. Reportedly, he told Senate Democrats the other night at the White House that he thinks there's only a 50-50 chance we can get a deal. And he told them definitely there will be no deal unless it's a good deal for the United States. He'll walk away from any bad deal. So we'll cover the waterfront here with all of that news and more. And pleased to welcome in a good friend of ours to start off this hour with a look at the national political scene. Steve Shepard is a campaign and elections editor. Big job for Politico. Big job this year for sure. Hi, Steve. Nice to see you again.
Morning.
Thanks for coming in. Glad you came in fortified with your morning coffee.
Well, it's early. It's 7 o'clock early. So
you need a jump, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Peter Ogburn is down in Charleston, South Carolina. Got a couple of days off. We're limping along without him. Lisa Murphy leading the team.
Hey, good morning.
Yes, indeed. Jamie Benson, as always, here to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Supreme Voting's still off for a day or two, and he is he's got his sidekick Monty Kensler as our videographer today as well. So the whole team is here, more or less. By the way, Steve, that we know Ted Cruz is running for one job, right? He's got one job in the Senate. He's running for another job at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and then he's running for yet another job because it was reported that Harry Shearer is leaving The Simpsons, a voice for so many of their characters, and Ted Cruz actually auditioned to be the new Harry Shearer. Here's the little audio of that audition.
Hi, I'm Ted. With Harry Shearer retiring, I'm auditioning for any part I can get in The Simpsons. Smithers, release the hounds. Excellent. Hidely-ho, neighbor. Oakley-dokley, neighborino. One of the great exchanges between Homer and Lisa. But Dad, I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat animals. But Lisa, animals are so delicious. There's the animal we get bacon from, the animal we get ham
that's
from.
enough of that. I think Ted Cruz may be breathing a sigh of relief today because the New York Times reports that, after all, Harry Shearer is returning to The Simpsons. Because I think Ted might have been embarrassed by not getting the job. That was not his best moment with that.
No, I don't think he's going to be hired for much voiceover work, but, good for him showing a sense of humor, which has been an issue for him since joining the Senate in 2013.
No, it has. Yeah, we haven't seen any sign of a sense of humor on the part of him. And who would have known that he was such a Simpsons fan, right?
Yeah, no, it was smart for him to do, but I think you're absolutely right. Harry Shearer's contract negotiations are good news for Ted Cruz.
Good news for Ted Cruz. I also think he better hold on to his day job because I'm not sure he's going to get that other job that he's looking for either as well. Anyhow, Steve Shepard here with us, Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney from New York, joining us at the half hour and the next hour. Brad Woodhouse from American Bridge, and Stephanie Miller from The Stephanie Miller Show, Sexy Liberal, here on the Bill Press Show today. Let's get right to it. Steve, what is happening? So I'm watching NBC News last night, right? 10 minutes, top of the news. Donald Trump, an interview with Katie Tur. I thought they fired Donald Trump. And then they give him all this time. Look in this morning. Anderson Cooper interviewing Donald Trump last night on CNN. Dylan Byers reports in Politico this morning that CNN has given Donald Trump 400 times they've covered Donald Trump since he announced on June 16, which is more coverage than any other Republican candidate has received. It's more coverage than Hillary Clinton has received. What's going on?
Well, it's really a big problem for Republicans, particularly the other Republicans who are hoping to gain traction. Yes, you're seeing a lot of Republicans smartly try to put distance between themselves and Donald Trump, try to attack Donald Trump. This is smart for two reasons. One, Donald Trump is probably on the wrong side of these issues, at least when it comes rhetorically. The second is a lot of these other candidates, Jeb Bush is an exception, Marco Rubio is an exception, Scott Walker is an exception, but basically everybody else, they're fighting for this small little bit of attention because Donald Trump is sucking up so much of the oxygen. The first debate, it says right there on CNN, first Republican debate is a month away on the Chiron. These candidates,
it's August 6th.
Right. A lot of these candidates are in danger of not even qualifying for that debate. And if they can't get their name ID up, if they can't get their poll numbers up, they're not going to make it. And if everybody's talking about Donald Trump, this is a bad example, but how does Bobby Jindal, how does John Kasich, who's going to announce his kid? The debate's in Ohio. You can't miss the debate if you're John Kasich. How do you get your name out there? How do you get any attention? Well, you attack the guy that everybody's talking about. And so I think that's what you're seeing happening a little bit. Rick Perry doing that YouTube video was kind of funny. It was very direct, in which he talks to he addresses Donald and talks to Donald Trump in that YouTube video, pushing back on his immigration record. These are smart things because Rick Perry is right now, I think, in 10th place.
Right.
That is the danger zone. That is on the bubble. And, he needs as much attention as he can get. And if everybody's talking about Donald Trump, well, if they're talking about Donald Trump and Rick Perry, that's good news for Rick Perry.
On the other hand, for the media, right, and the question, and that's the one that Dylan Byers discusses on Politico this morning, should the media be covering Donald Trump? I think the media has no choice but to cover Donald Trump because he's crazy, I think, but he is running second in some national polls at any rate, in Iowa and in New Hampshire as well. So you can't ignore that, right? You can't wish it away by ignoring him.
Yeah, it's almost like...
Would you agree?
No, he called our bluff. Speaking collectively for the political media, he called our bluff. In 2012, he got all this coverage, didn't run. Political editors said, you know what, we're not going to be fooled again.
Right.
He's doing the same thing this time.
Yep.
And then now he is running. He's filed his statement of candidacy with the Federal Election Commission. He's a declared candidate. He's able to raise money. He's able to spend money. He'll eventually have to file his personal financial disclosure. which he appears willing to do, you're right. We have no choice. We have to cover him as a presidential candidate and a media figure. There's really very little precedent for this, for someone in his celebrity running in our modern media landscape. But he has left us with no choice.
Right. Now, you mentioned the first debate. Okay, it's August 6th. And the rules, this is Fox News has the first debate. It's going to be in Cleveland, Ohio. And they have said, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, that there will only be 10 candidates on stage, not 17. With Jim Gilmore, we're up to 17.
George Pataki also probably not going to make it.
Right. But only 10. And the 10 will be the top 10 in the three most recent national polls. Is that?
I believe it's 5, but
5.
But, yeah.
Okay, all right.
As of August 4th, so 2 days before the debate, they will look at the most recent polls, and I think you're going to see a rush of new polls at the end of July, and August 4th is a Tuesday, so that Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I think you could get 5 polls that come out in that time, so that or at least 3 or 4, and those are going to be the polls that determine which candidate gets in. So you look at the average now; it's kind of a baseline. What do candidates need to do? I wrote a story on Politico about this a couple of days ago. What do they need to do? Well, there's not much they can do, but you are seeing a couple of things. One, Donald Trump sucking up all the oxygen. You have to go after Trump. 2, boost your standing in Iowa and New Hampshire and hope that leads to more attention for you nationally.
Yeah, right.
This time 4 years ago, Tim Pawlenty and Michelle Bachmann were running television ads. But they were only running them in Iowa, and they were trying to boost their numbers in the poll before the Iowa straw poll so that then they could generate support at the Iowa straw poll.
Yeah.
It worked out well for Bachmann for a short time. She tied Mitt Romney in the Des Moines Register pre-straw poll survey. She won the straw poll. She would finish last in the caucuses, of course. It did not work for Tim Pawlenty. Tim Pawlenty couldn't get into double digits, and then he finished 3rd in the straw poll, dropped out the next day. This time you're seeing candidates who are still going up in early states, but the calculus is totally different. Bobby Jindal, Rick Perry, their super PACs are up on the air. Rick Perry's super PAC is spending a little over $170,000 on TV ads in Iowa over the next week. Bobby Jindal's over the next 3 weeks is spending almost $750,000 on Iowa TV ads. In New Hampshire, John Kasich's super PAC is spending more than $500,000.
Kasich is starting today running ads, and he hasn't even announced yet.
Yes, it's a 60-second Fred Davis ad. I recommend checking it out if you know anything about Fred Davis as a Republican ad maker. His ads tend to be a little quirky. He did Demon Sheep for Carly Fiorina, and he did a lot of the John McCain ads in 2008, the celebrity ad. Anyway, the point is, these candidates are trying to boost their standings in these states. These states are the important ones for their candidacy. Bobby Jindal, any path he has to being a serious candidate means doing well in Iowa. John Kasich knows he needs to do well in New Hampshire. But the other point of these ads is to get up in the polls, and the reason to go up now, get up in the polls in mid to late July in New Hampshire. If we're talking about John Kasich is running 4th in New Hampshire, that's going to lead to more national attention for him and might boost his national poll numbers.
Right.
To run national TV ads, even on Fox News Channel, would be cost prohibitive for these guys and their super PACs, who in most cases don't have enough money to do that right now. And so this is the more efficient way to do it, but it's not necessarily going to work for them.
Okay, but so here the reality is, so with all this little games that they're playing, all of which is the purpose of influencing the polls so they can get on that stage on August 6th. 10 of them are going to make it. Okay? It's polling so much better than I do. There's not going to be a lot of difference between number 10 and number 11 or number 12 or number 13 or number 14, right?
No, and this is a problem.
That's very unfair, number one. And number two, if you're not on the stage for the first debate, you are toast, baby. Right? I think. How are you possibly going to get on stage for the second if you don't make it for the first?
No, look.
Right?
The one caveat I will say is the dynamic on the debate stage is going to be very similar to what we're seeing in the coverage of the campaign now. All people are going to want to see, basically, in the first debate is Donald Trump.
And you know what? He's going to attack everybody else on stage.
So, if
Yeah.
It's different for Kasich because the debate is in his home state. I think he needs to be there. And if he's not, he may forget to mail in his paperwork in time because he's not an official candidate yet. Somebody like Rick Perry, it would be good for him to be on the debate stage. Certainly, there's not going to be another debate for a month and a half, and so it's tough to bounce back from that. But if Donald Trump is all people are talking about after the debate on August 6th, if I'm here August 7th and we spend the whole time talking about Donald Trump, if all they're talking about on Fox and Friends the next morning is Donald Trump, then does it matter if Rick Perry was there or not? It matters a little bit, but I think Trump changes the calculus on a lot of things in the campaign as long as he remains one of the top 5 candidates.
When's the second debate?
Middle of September.
Whoa, not until then.
Yeah, okay. It's CNN. It's at the Reagan Library. I want to say the 16th, but it's somewhere in the middle of September.
In the middle of September. But a similar rule is going to apply, correct?
Yes.
So they're going to have to do something to get the poll numbers up if they don't make the first one, between the first and the second. And that means they're going to have to raise a lot of money probably and do a lot of ads.
Yeah, no, and again, there are going to be national polls that decide who gets into that debate. The debate after that'll be, there's one a month through the end of the year. After that, there's a debate. The 2 debates are on CNBC and Fox Business Network, so those will get a little bit lower ratings. But the first 2, Fox News, yes, it's the summer. Not a lot of people tune in the summer, but it's Fox News Channel. Middle of September, we're after Labor Day, CNN. Those 2, I think, are going to get pretty big ratings among Republican primary voters. And if you're not there for either one, it's difficult to form a rationale for your candidacy. And I think, we're talking 17 candidates right now. Be surprised if we get to Iowa with more than a dozen.
Right. All right. Oh, it's getting so interesting. By the day, Steve Shepard here from Politico. We'll be right back. You want to chime in? 866-55-PRESS. Now's your chance.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold. From the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness.
My beauty.
My power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired.
Tapped.
And tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney from New York at the half hour right now with Steve Shepard from Politico, campaign and elections editor. Steve, if Donald Trump is the phenomenon on the Republican side, Bernie Sanders is wowing them on the Democratic side, going up in the polls, getting within single digits to Hillary Clinton in Iowa. What's going on?
Well,
can this last?
Well, I think there is. You're seeing cracks here. This will be one. The Florida Senate race will be another sort of crack between moderate Democrats and progressive Democrats. Hillary Clinton, she's been campaigning for 3 months, but not really. She hasn't been doing the things that most candidates do. She's starting to engage with the media, which gives her an outlet to engage with people directly. But, these small little gatherings at some factory or community college in Iowa or New Hampshire doesn't give her exposure to voters more broadly yet. She's going to start to get that eventually. Bernie Sanders, Iowa, New Hampshire are good states for him. You have a lot of white liberals in those states who vote in Democratic caucuses and primaries. That's his constituency. When they get down to South Carolina, that's not going to work for him, where more than half of the primary electorate is African American. That's going to be a tougher haul for him. But I think, look, you're seeing some progressives unhappy with looking at 6.5 years now of the Obama administration. Some of the places where they feel like the Obama administration has come up short. You saw the same thing on the Republican side leading into 2008. And, all of a sudden Bernie Sanders is 8 points down in New Hampshire.
Yeah, I know. And drawing these huge crowds.
Yeah. He's got people energized.
It's fun to watch. But Hillary, of course, says she's happy that he's running. She likes the challenge. We love having you in, Steve. Thanks so much, right? Okay?
Absolutely.
And we'll talk again maybe even before the big debate. Steve Shepard from Politico.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts. Stop the wrecks.
Before now, it's been difficult for criminals like us to know which states have loose gun laws. How would a criminal like me know which states permit me to carry loaded guns in their amusement parks, golf courses, or beaches?
I have some violent friends. We all wear leather jackets and scream at women. And we want to find out which states we can buy and sell guns easily.
CrimAdvisor.com. That's the site to find out where it's easiest for felons and fugitives to buy, carry, and even traffic guns.
That's why I love Arizona, where I can go see the beautiful Grand Canyon and carry a loaded gun without even having to get a background check.
You would fail that background check.
I'm sure of it. Now, what about a road trip? What states can I go to fill my trunk with guns and take it back home for my even more dangerous friends?
Crime Advisor has a list for that.
That's so unreasonable.
Our traffickers' top 10.
Nevada! What happens in Vegas may have to stay in Vegas, but your guns don't. Bring them over to California and sell them.
The market up there is hungry. Hungry for guns.
I understand that CrimAdvisor.com will tell me which states really cater to us criminals and creeps, but what about the states where we're not so welcome? The ones that don't get us?
I don't even like saying the name of these states, but California, Connecticut, Maryland, and New York all have laws to keep guns out of the hands of people like us.
I want to shoot California so bad.
Boo, California.
Boo, go home. Wow, CrimAdvisor.com has all this information?
Sure does.
CrimAdvisor.com. Plan your perfect getaway. Oh, like TripAdvisor.
Oh.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 33 minutes after the hour. The Bill Press Show this Thursday, July 9. We're here on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. And we're here with you all across this great land of ours, coast to coast on your local progressive talk radio station and coast to coast on Free Speech TV. Brought to you today, proudly brought to you today by the International Association of Machinists. The good men and women of the Machinists Union under President Tom Buffenbarger, sharpening America's edge on the global economy, you bet. And for more information about their good work, we salute them, thank them for their support, and encourage you to check out their website, goiam.org. The House is back in session, which means some of our good friends are back in town, including good friend Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney, representing New York's 12th Congressional District, here on our newsline this morning. Hey, Congresswoman, good to talk to you again.
Good morning, Bill. Thank you for having me on your show again.
So Friday's going to be a big day in New York, a ticker tape parade.
Wow, first ever for a women's team. Isn't that exciting?
No, it really is. In fact, I can't remember we don't have as many ticker tape parades as we used to, I guess, right? This is really great.
Well, our last one was 2012, I think, when the Giants won.
Oh, is that
the
right?
Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, it's great that they get this recognition on Broadway, the ticker tape parade, but they're not getting as much recognition as you have pointed out when it comes to getting paid for their work, right?
Well, that's true. It's an amazing, wonderful, historic win, and I think that Carly Lloyd's 3 goals in the first 16 minutes will go down in history as one of the great sports moments in history. And I don't want to take anything away from their great win, but when you look at this historic win, you also have to look that they are being paid less, far less than the men's team. They're paying them 4 times less than the men that lose. They were given $2 million for winning the World Cup, but that's $6 million less than what was given to the men's team eliminated in the first round.
When they lost.
Yeah, when they lost, they got $8 million. So it's $2 million to $8 million. And when the men won last year, Germany, they got $35 million. So it's $2 million to $35 million for the winning team. That's $33 million less than the men's World Cup winner, and that's really unfair.
And what is that based on? I mean, I also saw that the women's game, I think, is the most watched soccer game like ever. Right?
I know. So, it was the most popular sports event in soccer in the history. So they can't say it's because people aren't watching. People are watching. Yeah. And I would just say that women across the board are being shortchanged. Soccer is just another recent example. FIFA needs to step up to the line and do the right thing, and we can't allow these pay gaps to continue. They need to stop paying short shrift to women's soccer in general, but Congress also needs to step up because women around America and across America are being shortchanged. But FIFA needs to do what women's tennis has done. The doubles and singles and Wimbledon that this week they pay the same, and also the U.S. Open, Australian Open, and the French Open they pay the same to men and women. But the women's soccer team is just an incredible gap between the men's pay.
No, I was stunned when I saw that, but I guess part of the problem, I mean, Congress doesn't have any jurisdiction over FIFA, right? It's just moral pressure, maybe.
It's moral pressure. I think I'll put in a sense of Congress that they should be paid the same, but also Congress needs to pass Equal Rights Amendment and family-friendly policies and equal pay for equal work and all kinds of initiatives that we have, the Paycheck Fairness Act. Women cannot even sue if they are discriminated against. There's no legal recourse. That would give them legal recourse. Of course, the ERA would give them legal recourse, too. But unfortunately, Bill, I'd say that women are accustomed to being paid less across America and I'd say across the world. And that's unfair because a woman is... when you discriminate against a woman, you discriminate against her family and the well-being of her family by paying her less.
It's still about 77 cents, isn't it, on the dollar that women are paid?
That's what the census numbers show, and that number has been consistent and solid for roughly 30 years.
By the way, I don't know whether you know about this. I just was checking. There was a story this morning from New York. Prospect Heights. Where is that? Is that?
That's in Brooklyn, Prospect Heights.
Not part of your district, right?
No, not my district.
Anyway, there's a bar out there called the Way Station. And they are making a point that when they're women and it comes time to pay the bill, they only charge them 77% of their bill. They give them a 23% discount on their bill.
Just to make you are
point.
Kidding.
No, isn't that great?
I'm going to go to that bar. I think that's really... Yeah, now maybe we should have tax policy that say we can pay 23% less.
Right, yeah.
Our tax policy. Yeah. Oh, that is really funny.
It's called the Way Station. It just caught my eye this morning, and I saved
Where did you see that? I'm going to look it up.
Let's see. It's in The Guardian.
Okay.
The Guardian. TheGuardian.com, Way Station Bar in Prospect Heights, and they say we thought this would be a great way to even the playing field. Oh, wait a minute. It says only for one night. But even for one night, they're making a point. Right.
I think that's an important point to make, and I congratulate the way station. I think I'm going to go by there.
You should, stop by and tell them they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Now I have to ask you, Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney from New York, our guest here on the Bill Press Show. I have to ask you about another issue, and I know particularly one very important to you. It was great to see the Confederate flag come down last night and that vote in the South Carolina House. Mm-hmm. Now that we have, in effect, dealt with the flag issue, are we ever going to get around to the gun issue? Because it was the gun, not the flag, that killed those 9 people at
I agree,
church.
Bill. There's all this hoopla about the flag coming down, and that's important, symbolic. But what's going to save lives is passing gun safety.
Thank you.
And I tell you, I keep thinking when my colleague and good friend Gabby Gifford was really shot, and when we saw Sonny, the shooting in Connecticut, and then the shooting in Charleston, South Carolina, you think that there would be this wave of support that would get behind sensible gun safety. We don't want to take guns away from responsible citizens, but what's wrong with background checks and closing the loophole and gun shows that allows them to buy guns without the background check? And I tell you, I even put a bill in that would allow, that called upon the Center of Disease Control to do studies on ways to make guns safer. And the Republican majority countered by passing a bill. Mine is just being considered, but passing a bill that you can't even study gun safety. I tell you, I think it's the only issue I've ever seen in Congress that they have passed legislation that you cannot study it. It is beyond belief and absolutely completely wrong. And then why not have liability insurance for guns? We have it for cars.
Yeah,
and that has led to all kinds of safety measures. The more safety measures you have, the less your insurance. I thought that was a good way to have incentives to have gun safety.
Economic incentives.
Yeah, exactly. Put on gun safety, child safety locks, lock them up. But then there was a massive outpouring from the NRA in opposition to it. But I tell you, the one that is, to me, astonishing is we had a hearing where the Border Patrol testified that they do not even bother to arrest gun smugglers and those that trade in illegal guns to drug cartels and gangs and illegal people and bad people because there's no enforcement. There's no enforcement and there's no penalty for selling illegal guns. And I mean, it's insane when you think about it. You know, why not make selling illegal guns a felony? And I have a bill in on that. But none of these bills move, and so many members are captive to the NRA. And I keep, after every one of these tragedies, I think, surely, after Sandy Hook, when you had so many young people that were murdered and 10 teachers murdered with the 33 children, you thought surely they're going to act. But they didn't. And that's another travesty and something we have to pass, this nation. And when you poll it, 90% of America supports gun safety measures, 90%. And Congress should respond to the will of the people.
No, it really has to. I mean, it's like every time you think, what is it going to take, right? What is it going to take? We all thought Sandy Hook for sure. If Aurora, Colorado didn't, and if Gabby Gifford shooting didn't, Sandy Hook for sure. Didn't happen after that, and then Mother Emanuel Church, and it hasn't happened after this either. So, you're absolutely right on that issue, Congresswoman, and I don't have to encourage you to keep up the fight because I know you will. You've been leading on this issue for many, many years. I have to ask you a quick one before we leave. So there's this big brouhaha between Mayor de Blasio and Governor Cuomo. Whose side are you on?
I tell you, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I'm used to studying or having fights on policy.
Yeah.
But this is just plain personal.
I know.
Usually, we have fights all the time in Congress, but it's never personal. You can disagree on one issue and agree on another.
Right.
But this seems like petty personal attacks, and it's not helpful, and I hope that both of them back down and focus on the issues and not personal attacks.
Good for you, yeah. I don't think it's good for the state. I don't think it's good for the Democratic Party. I don't think it's either good for either one of them, you know.
I agree with you completely.
Yeah, so, all right, well, maybe
it's a sideshow we don't need to have, right?
They could just go out and have a beer. They should go to the Way Station Bar in Prospect Heights and have a beer.
I think they should. And I think they both should be in this ticker tape parade. I'm absolutely thrilled that women are being recognized finally for their historic and important achievements. And we do have to work on the pay equity. I don't want to gripe over this great victory they've had, but at the same time, it raises questions.
Absolutely.
And they say we don't have professional sports. Well, you got to pay them. You can't pay a woman $6,000 a year and expect her to live on it and have a sports career.
No, absolutely.
Although we have made progress since Title IX, equality of education and sports was enacted, and many women are getting scholarships to go to college, and sports are there to build strong bodies, strong minds in our high schools and colleges. It's important, and you can see it now in the soccer team win.
Yep. Title IX, huge success. Well, have a great parade. Have a lot of fun on Friday. And thanks so much for taking time for us this morning.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Congressman Carolyn Maloney, representing New York's 12th Congressional District.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
12 minutes before the top of the hour. Republicans are trying to whip up a lot of controversy over the Hillary Clinton emails, yet again, led by Trey Gowdy, the chairman of this phony Benghazi committee that John Boehner appointed in the House. They're running the anti-Hillary campaign, presidential campaign, out of the House, Republican House of Representatives. Nobody has been stronger in striking back at Trey Gowdy and John Boehner and the House Republicans than Brad Woodhouse, the president of American Bridge. He'll be in studio here with us for the next hour, and we'll be joined by the one and only sexy liberal herself, Stephanie Miller, talking about what's going on in her life with her show and her new book. All of that coming up in hour number 3. Meanwhile, the big story and the great good news story of the day out of South Carolina, where the South Carolina House of Representatives early this morning, after an entire day yesterday of debate and of meetings and of caucuses and of attempts to derail the legislation to remove the Confederate flag, the legislation that had already overwhelmingly passed the South Carolina State Senate. The vote finally this morning, 93 to 27 in favor of taking down the flag. State Senator James Smith, I think, sort of seized said it best, urging his fellow representatives to seize the moment. He's a Democrat.
It was right to remove the Confederate flag from the State House on the grounds before June 17, 2015. And for the same reasons, it's right to do it today. And for the sake of all in our state, let's don't lose this moment.
They debated it back and forth. The Republicans at one point called a break, and they went into a special caucus meeting. The governor attended that meeting and said, come on, you've got to do the right thing for South Carolina. I want you to take down the flag. They took another break and did a field trip down to the Confederate Museum of the Confederacy, which is about a mile from the State House in Columbia. And they viewed the site where the Confederate flag will be displayed inside that museum, just maybe to get a feel for that people could still see the flag if they went to the museum, or was it going to disappear forever? They weren't going to put it behind closed doors or whatever. So they did that. Then they came back. The people against taking down the flag, or the pro-Confederate flag crowd, kept offering amendments trying to derail the legislation and send it back to the Senate for more debate and delay. Those amendments were all shot down. And then finally, after, again, the passionate debate, the vote early this morning, no voice maybe made more of an impression than a Republican state senator, Jenny Horn, who just tearfully pleading with her colleagues to do the right thing.
I cannot believe that we do not have the heart in this body to do something meaningful, such as take a symbol of hate off these grounds on Friday. And if any of you vote to amend, you are ensuring that this flag will fly beyond Friday. And for the widow of Senator Pinckney and his 2 young daughters, that would be adding insult to injury.
Republican Representative Jenny Horn of South Carolina carrying the day, the final vote, despite all those efforts to derail, delay, or defeat the legislation, the final vote to take down the flag, 93 to 27. That bill, having earlier passed the state Senate, is now on Governor Nikki Haley's desk. No doubt she will sign it, and the flag will be gone off the Capitol grounds of the state of South Carolina. In Columbia, South Carolina, it'll be gone by this weekend. It's so comforting and exciting to see that absolutely unthinkable 3 weeks ago. Sadly, it took a tragedy to bring about that change, but this is a real sea change. Good for the South, good for the entire country. We'll be right back and tell you what President Obama's got on his schedule today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, what do you say, folks? 2 hours almost down, ready to move into hour number 3, a very exciting hour number 3. You're not going to want to miss it. You have to wait until 5 o'clock Eastern on Free Speech TV, 4 Central, but you can catch it right away live on our video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV. No greater defender of Hillary Clinton than the people at American Bridge. The president of American Bridge, Brad Woodhouse, will be in studio with us for the entire hour. And your favorite talk show host and mine, the one and only Stephanie Miller, sexy liberal, joins us live from the West Coast. All of that, won't want to miss it. Hour number 3.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear. We had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves, would you like a bag? What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, the Department of Homeland Security is assuring us that the big simultaneous computer breakdowns yesterday were no cyber attack. But boy, it was pretty scary to see in just a matter of a couple of hours, a computer glitch shut down United Airlines, shut down the New York Stock Exchange, and shut down the Wall Street Journal website. Not a cyber attack, says DHS. It was just a coincidence that all those computers had their glitch at the same time. President Obama has got his eye on negotiations in Vienna to complete the nuclear deal with Iran. So they are keeping his schedule very light these days so he can respond as needed. Witness today, he and the vice president get their daily briefing together at 10:30 this morning. And then this afternoon at about 3:15, they'll be meeting with Attorney General Loretta Lynch. One wonders if they're going to talk about Edward Snowden and maybe making a deal with Snowden. We have our briefing with Josh Earnest at 12:30. Back with Brad Woodhouse.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night. And I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? There's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic disaster, gets people's attention, but the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the cancer that we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together. And it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by the coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors, you're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
We began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all, and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this, because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues, The state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. It has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately, with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money and judicial elections.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
The flag is gone, or soon will be. The House of Representatives in South Carolina voting 93-27 early this morning to join the state Senate in saying take down the flag. Governor Haley will sign that legislation. The flag will be gone by the weekend. With that bit of good news, we say hello and good morning. And welcome to the Bill Press Show this Thursday, July 9. So good to see you. Bill Press and friends coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. And we are there with you on your local progressive talk radio station, coast to coast. And there with you and nationwide as well on Free Speech TV, worldwide on our video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV. The attacks are building up against former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. It seems that the campaign against her is being run out of the Republican-controlled House of Representatives. And nobody more on the scene responding and correcting the record about these attacks against Hillary than the president of Correct the Record, Brad Woodhouse, who joins us in studio for the whole hour as a friend of Bill. Hello, Brad.
Hey, good morning, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Not only a friend, but a neighbor on the hill.
That's right.
We love people who live on the hill.
Absolutely. It's a wonderful community.
Just roll out of bed and just walk over.
Just walk to work, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it is a great community.
Yeah, it really is.
So things going well. Can't wait to hear the latest.
Absolutely.
Peter Ogburns, you see empty chair
Empty
here.
chair.
Yeah, he's down in Charleston, South Carolina.
Okay.
That's where he's from.
Good.
His family went down yesterday.
Well, he's in South Carolina on a historic day.
He is. Yeah. In fact, we give him credit for going down there yesterday and delivering that vote.
Thank God that we can be thankful for that.
But Elisa Murphy's here, keeping the ship afloat this morning. Hello, ho. With Jamie Benson on the phones. 866-55-PRESS is where you join him and join us. And Monty Kanzler is filling in for Cyprian as our videographer again today, because God knows where Cyprian is. I mean,
everyone's on vacation, Bill. Well, it's July.
It's summer in Washington.
It is.
You know what I mean? So you got to sort of expect that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Your computers work yesterday? Did you? You haven't?
I had no glitches with my computers.
Wasn't it eerie and scary when United Airlines goes out, and then the New York Stock Exchange, and then the Wall Street Journal website.
Absolutely,
it's almost at one time.
It's really strange.
So Conan O'Brien told us last night why they weren't able to fix it right away. Here he is.
Big news, though. There was big national news today.
Let's just I forgot to mention. So he's broadcasting live from the Comic-Con in San Diego.
Oh, right, okay.
Which There's about like 100,000 people or more that show up for that thing every year.
Extraordinary.
It's insane.
Yeah.
A lot of them in costume, of course. Right? So anyhow, now Conan O'Brien.
Big news, though. There was big national news today. The New York Stock Exchange, did you hear this? Was shut down today for 4 hours due to a technical glitch. Yes, that's a true story. Yeah. They would have fixed it sooner, but unfortunately, all the people who know how are here at Comic-Con.
That's why it was such a long delay.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh, my God. That's hilarious. It was probably the people at Comic-Con that did all this, you know. They got together. They were having some cocktails, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Let's wreak havoc on a bunch of people. That United Airlines thing, I was following it.
Flights
I was following it on Twitter, and you know, people were sitting in the airports, and of course, you know, online and up on the boards, it was all saying on-time flights, and they're like, they're not on-time flights.
No,
there's nothing going on. Yeah, it was
to shut down the
extraordinary. You know, travel is frustrating enough, and I'm someone who doesn't like to travel. I'm not a fan of flying. When you compound it with something like that, this has got to be one of the most frustrating days you can have.
So Brad here with us this entire hour, and then we'll be joined by the one and only Stephanie Miller, sexy liberal herself, at the
Bill, can you say that?
Sexy liberal?
Sexy liberal, can you say that?
I already said it, yeah.
Well, you're a friend. She's a friend of Bill's.
She says, yes, she's a great friend of all of ours. It'll be exciting to catch up with Stephanie as well. But first, Brad, a couple of quick stories. Peter does the full court press, and I can't do it as well, but a couple of stories of California that caught my attention this morning. I wanted to get your reaction to. The first is, you know, the most important issue right now in California is water, right, and the drought and everything. Tom Selleck, Mr. Magnum PI.
Oh, yeah.
In hot
Talk about
water.
a sexy guy.
Talk about trouble. Right? They discovered he has a ranch up in Ventura County, and water restrictions and everything. He gets a truck, and he's been doing this now apparently for a couple of years. Gets a truck to go to some public water hydrant, fills the truck with water, and then brings it back. He's stealing
water?
Water, and bringing it back to keep the plants on his ranch going.
Has he really?
Yeah, they got him. They got caught, and he's been sued by the water district up in Ventura County, California, district of Los Angeles. Tom Selleck stealing water.
And people are denying climate change, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people are having to steal water in California, but no, there's no such thing as climate change.
Yeah. That's a hanging offense in California these days. Better be careful. The other thing that's official now in California, as of July 1 last year, they knew it was going to happen sometime in 2014. Talk about a political impact here. Latinos now outnumber whites in the state of California. Population 14.99 million Latinos, 14.92 million whites.
Well, you know, California is always ahead of the rest of the country in political change, demographic change, and this is coming, and it's one of the things that Republicans fear the most.
I was just going to say, maybe Republicans ought to notice a trend here, right?
Yeah.
And maybe rethink their
maybe so, but as evidenced by what's going on in the Republican field, they don't seem to be poised to do that.
Boy, they don't at all.
Yeah.
But remember, Trump is going to get all those Latino votes.
All the Latino voters.
Thank you. Yeah. Right. Yeah, he said yesterday if he's a nominee, he's going to get the Latino vote based on what?
Yeah, who knows?
Based on insult.
Based on that fine mop of hair. That's the only thing. I mean, you know, everyone's envious of that.
In this crazy interview that Donald Trump gave yesterday to NBC, where he just ran roughshod over that poor Katie Tur, you know, he said that Hillary is probably the. Do we have that clip there with Donald Trump and Hillary? Yeah, let's just listen to it.
I think Hillary would be a terrible president. She was the worst Secretary of State in the history of our nation. Why would she be a good president? Jeb Bush will never take us to the promised land. He doesn't have it. Hillary will never take us. Hillary will be a disaster as a president. We need somebody that can make great deals with China.
Oh, my God.
But last year, he was talking about what a great person Hillary was.
What a great
good
person.
Friends they were.
Yeah, and him and Bill. I mean, it's
right.
Look, he's off his rocker. I don't know. Maybe this is just showmanship. I'm not exactly sure, but he's look. You saw a minute ago up here on your board, MSNBC, CNN, and Fox were all talking Trump all at the same all at the same time. And look, maybe that's what Donald Trump wants. But I do believe this. There's some segment of the Republican primary electorate right now that is attracted to something, his celebrity, his bravado, and he's going to be in that debate in less than 4 weeks. So,
absolutely,
which I just, Bill, as an operative, I can't wait to see that happen, and it'd be fascinating. I'd love to be on the wall, fly on the wall in the debate prep sessions of the other Republican candidates and hearing the discussion about how to handle Trump, how to Trump.
That's what it's going to be all about. Yeah. Because he will be on stage. He has already attacked every one of them, so he will attack everybody on. He doesn't care. Yeah. He'll attack everybody on stage, right? Yeah, he'll
attack everybody. He'll leave no prisoners. I mean, look. As I look at it as a Democratic operative, one of the other things I think is, some of these other people who have suspect records, suspect positions, may look reasonable by comparison. Just to his rhetoric, and that would be kind of unfortunate if we didn't flesh out the fact that Jeb Bush has turned away from his support for comprehensive immigration reform. That Scott Walker is ridiculously conservative now on immigration and does not support immigration reform or a path to citizenship. So hopefully Trump won't detract from the fact that these Republicans are really just as extreme as he is. They just aren't as outlandish as he is.
Good point. And, the Washington, Politico this morning quotes Steve Ginsburg, who's the chief political editor at the Washington Post, on the question of whether or not, Dylan Byers wrote this piece about whether or not the media should be giving Trump as much attention, as you pointed out, as he's getting. Yeah. And Ginsburg makes the point, he said, we can't choose whom to cover and whom not to cover in the sense of who's serious and who's not. That we have to cover Donald Trump because he raises the question, what does it say about the Republican Party today that he is polling number 2 in the latest national polls and in Iowa and in New Hampshire? Right. What does that say about today's Republicans in the summer of 2015?
Right. You can't ignore it. I mean, look, it would be hard for the media to ignore Donald Trump if he was polling at 0. But when he's polling in the top 2 or 3 or 4, look, when he's polling in the top 10, because there are going to be 10 that make the first Fox debate. Yeah. But when he's polling up there near the very top, you have to cover it because he's having an impact on the field. Jeb Bush is responding to him. I mean, what does it suggest that we shouldn't? If you don't cover Trump, you don't cover Jeb Bush's response to Trump. Of course, he's going to be covered. And look, I think he should be.
Right. Now, I've got to ask you about the Hillary Clinton emails. Yet again, I thought this issue had gone away. Yeah. But yet again, it is resurfaced. And again, led by Trey Gowdy, the chair of this phony Benghazi committee that John Boehner appointed. But it does look like the Republicans are running the anti-Hillary campaign. And, you're president of Correct the Record. Yeah. And you're quoted in Politico this morning talking about it. They're running the anti-Hillary Clinton campaign from the House of Representatives.
It is absolutely the clearest strategy that you have ever seen. The Republican field is a clown car. It's a mess. They can't land a punch on Hillary Clinton because they're all fighting amongst themselves. They have Trump detracting from whatever message they're trying to get out. The only people that are really running a campaign at taxpayer expense, right, is this Republican-led Benghazi committee on the Hill. It is a committee that's never accomplished anything. It's a committee that's never found anything. It's a committee that's never proved anything. It's a joke. It is a complete and utter joke.
And let's remind us, all of us, that this is on top of 2 years of hearings by Darrell Issa.
Right.
Before.
Darrell Issa, and then remember, the House Intelligence Committee at the end of the last Congress put out a report exonerating everybody. Yes. The president, the State Department, Hillary Clinton, all this BS about stand-down orders and all of the things that people had alleged never occurred. But now But now Trey Gowdy is continuing this committee that had run out of steam, talking about Hillary Clinton's email practices that were allowed, that were permitted, that were legal. Look, I understand the press doesn't like them because the press wants a 100% transparency into everything. Well, there's never 100% transparency into the emails of public officials or secretaries. I mean, this is one way to look at it. She turned over 55,000 pages of emails. Colin Powell, who helped take this country to a phony war in Iraq, who went and testified at the UN about WMDs that didn't exist, never turned over one email, not one, ever. And he used private email when he was Secretary of State, and no one has ever seen one of his emails. She turned over 55,000 pages, and incidentally, the fact that she used private email has been in the public domain for years as a result of this Russian who's now in a Ukrainian prison who hacked Sidney Blumenthal's email. So we knew, the public knew Hillary Clinton had a private email address. Trey Gowdy didn't discover that, even though he would like to say that he has. Well, and I don't know where this thing is going, but more hearings? Is they're subpoena her to testify? They're talking about. Well, that's another thing. They subpoenaed Sid Blumenthal, and they actually sent a federal marshal.
Spent a whole day.
They sent a federal marshal to his home to deliver a subpoena when he had always telegraphed that he would be a cooperative witness. He didn't need a subpoena. This was just another example of them. It's a stunt. The whole thing is a stunt. It's a political witch hunt at taxpayer expense. And look, here's what people need to remember. This was what Republicans did during the 90s. They spent Whitewater, Travelgate, the Lewinsky. The Republican Congress spent 8 years using taxpayer money to try to bring down Bill Clinton politically. One of the lessons of that was it didn't work.
Right.
It didn't work.
And they ought to know that this is not going to work. It's not going to work. Right.
It's not going to work. Trey Gowdy's a joke.
But he's there, and he'll continue to stir things up. I'll tell you who's doing a good job, I think, is the congressman from Elijah Cummings.
Oh my gosh, he's
from Maryland.
He's been absolutely dead on. And the thing that I like about it, is that he doesn't allow any misrepresentation or factual or lie from Trey Gowdy or the majority of that committee to go unchallenged. He's in the press every single day fighting back.
Right. Brad Woodhouse here with us, president of Correct the Record, correcting and responding to some of the lies and charges against Hillary Clinton. Full-time job for sure. Comments or questions?
Keeps us busy.
Suggestions, 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. When I say dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay, so who's gonna do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 27 minutes after the hour. Stephanie Miller joining us at the half hour. Brad Woodhouse here from Correct the Record. And Brad, let's say
Correct
hello to,
the Record.
Let's say hello to Hal in Kensington, Maryland. Hi, Hal.
Hey, guys.
Morning. Hi.
Well, thank you. Yeah, obviously the Republican focus on the Benghazi situation is ridiculous. There's just no there. But Brad, don't you think that Secretary of State Clinton gives them some powder when she goes on the air and says that she didn't violate any rules? And the rule put in place in October of 2009 made it clear that private email addresses were permitted but had to be maintained, all emails on government server, and she did not do that. So shouldn't she just come clean? Wouldn't that be much better to come clean on this particular issue?
Well, look, I think she's explained that, and in that every email that she sent to a State Department employee was maintained on a government server, and so and it's responsibility of those employees that she sends emails to archive those emails. One of the most interesting things about this is, and no one ever talks about it, Jeb Bush, governor of Florida, he used private email. He had a private email server. He decided what to turn over, and he did it years after the statute required. But the press doesn't care about that.
You know what? Also, they say, well, can we trust her? Nobody's asking, can you trust Scott Walker?
Right.
Can you trust Ted Cruz?
Right.
Hell no. Brad Woodhouse here. Stephanie Miller stepping up to the plate, coming back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
They called her Little Sanju. She was born in a village at the foot of the Himalayas, the smallest of 7 brothers and sisters.
My family was very poor. To get by, we raised cows and we made small fins for tourists out of bamboo. But we were always hungry, and no matter how hard he tried, my father was always in debt. When I was 11, my father told me I had to go to work making carpets. I had to leave with a man who took me to the carpet factory. The broker who took me away got paid, but they never paid my father anything. I made knots from 4 in the morning until 8 at night. There was never a day off. I was always hungry, I cut my fingers while weaving and had to weave with cut fingers. My hands began to look like my grandmother's. I cried every night. I thought the rest of my life would be only this.
It takes 1 million knots to make one 8x10 rug. In the 1990s, 1 million children were enslaved making carpets in South Asia. Then a hero entered the picture. It was you. If you knew how these carpets were made, you would no longer think they were so beautiful. And if you could choose a better rug, your buying power could end child slavery in the rug industry. From that simple idea, Goodweave was born. Here's how it works. To earn the Goodweave label, companies agreed not to employ children. Goodweave makes sure by conducting surprise inspections. When children are found, Goodweave helps them.
2 years ago, a Goodweave inspector named Grona found me in the factory. When I saw him, I was scared, but Grona put his arm around me and told me it would be okay. Grona took me to Hamrogar, a home for rescued carpet kids run by Goodweave. I'm the first person in my family to ever go to school.
Today, thousands of children like Sanju have been educated and rescued by Goodweave. And because you chose the Goodweave label, 3/4 of those million children weaving carpets are now free. And Sanju? With Goodweave's support, she's able to attend her village school and live at home where she belongs. Now that's a beautiful rug that tells a beautiful story. Stand with Sanju. Insist on the Goodweave label.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, what do you say 33 minutes after the hour? How about it on a Thursday, July 9? Here we are in Washington, D.C., The Bill Press Show. Brad Woodhouse, president of Correct the Record, is in studio with us this hour. Friends of Bill. I got no better friend than my girlfriend, the one and only sexy liberal herself. I just haven't seen her in too long, but anyway, it is we at the warmth email. Hey, girl, how are you?
Well, now I'm opening. I'll be on in 20 minutes.
All right. This is it. Well, hey, listen. Congrats. It's good to talk to you. And Stephanie has a very fun new book out called Sexy Liberal.
Ah, there we go. Now I get
it to get your attention,
there
Bill.
You go.
I sing of me. That's right. So how's it going? What, Stephanie, you must be having as much fun as we are. I know you are. Listening to you.
If you see because we've talked about my family. My dad, and mom is.
I have met. Out of Nashville.
As I recall, she got a little handsy with you, Bill, and I apologize for that.
Bill didn't mind.
I just figured she took...
I had to put right in the dedication, mom. So, yeah, I'm thrilled, but it just dropped to life, and it's the number one political book in the country. It's the number one humor on Amazon. on, so I couldn't be more thrilled. So yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. That is.
It is
really
filthy.
great.
It is filthy like everything else I do. So that helps.
I know. Now you must be having as much fun as all of us with this Republican clown car, huh?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Do you? I mean, seriously, how fast are my dad and Goldwater spinning at Donald Trump being one of the front runners of the Republican Party? I mean, it's just I don't even know what to say.
No, and every day it's more. He just throws out more outrageous comments, right?
Right. Didn't he? He made Charles Krauthammer called him a rodeo clown, and he just said, "Oh, a guy that can't buy pants, I'm gonna get hear from." And I'm like, what does that mean? Because he's in a wheelchair? Oh my God.
No.
Well, what does it say about the Republican Party that he's like second in the polls?
Right. It says everything you need to know about the Republican Party. That's what's sad.
Yeah. Well, listen, you guys may laugh at him, but he's going to win the Latino vote.
What he says. Yes. He says he loves Mexicans and they love him.
Remember what Seth Meyers said at the White House Correspondent Dinner a couple of years ago, that Donald Trump says he loves blacks. Well, unless the blacks are a family of whites, he's wrong.
Yeah.
But we'll fix all the world's problems if we just work longer hours, right?
Oh, I mean, it's like a gas machine over there. This clown bus comes with its own gas machine this time. It is just, so, Jim, we're talking about, like, being out of touch with the normal people. I thought I saw the latest study of how many hours Americans work. This is just like George Bush. Remember when he was, like, the woman that said, I have to work 2 jobs? He's like, oh, it's great. Uniquely American. No!
Yeah.
People shouldn't have to work 70 hours. But, so here comes another Bush saying the same thing. Like, Americans just need to work longer.
We don't have to raise, the logic is, we don't have to raise the minimum wage. We're still going to pay you dirt per hour. You just work more hours, and so you make more dirt. Right?
This is coming from a guy who his entire career is predicated on his last name. He's
exactly.
This guy who all the money he's ever made and all the success he's ever achieved was given to him by his last name, and he wants other people to work longer hours.
Yeah, Brad, exactly. It's like, does that work if you don't have a Bush family trust fund? Does that work too, or do you don't mean you? Right. Give me a break. And then don't even get me started. I'm sure you heard the other news. The George W. Bush, who unnecessarily sent all these troops into harm's way in Iraq, charged $100,000 to speak to a veterans group of wounded veterans from Iraq. I mean,
that's disgusting.
Well, what's disgusting is the.
Did he charge $100,000 when he went to Walter Reed Hospital to visit them?
Right. To make speaking of some of his finest humor, right?
Well, what's disgusting is the press won't pay any attention to it. I mean, we obviously know it through the press, but we know every speech that Hillary Clinton ever gave and how much money it cost and whatever type of conflicts of interest may have existed. But this will just be sloughed off.
Right. And by the way, did you see Laura Bush spoke to the same group and made $50,000?
Oh my God!
No, I didn't see
a year before.
People pay $50,000 to hear from Laura Bush.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the part about that. I guess this is a great country in that way.
Well, it's the old.
They don't need to work longer hours. It doesn't sound like.
No, it's a 70s.
Yeah, and people were smart enough to not want to buy Sarah Palin talking. So that's.
Oh, by the way, yeah.
So there is a God.
Yeah,
yeah. That sort of people didn't get as much attention. Sarah just finally realized her time has come and gone.
And I guess the vacuum is being filled by Donald Trump. Right? I mean,
yes. The douche canoe segment of the Republican Party now has a new spokesperson.
The voice, it's the one and only Stephanie Miller, our guest here. Her show now 21 minutes away. So she's
people are going to think they're late to work now, Bill. They're like, wait a minute.
Right.
Stephanie's on?
This is how she's doing the show prep today, by joining us. And her new book, you can get it at all the regular places.
No, Amazon. Just on Amazon right now.
Okay. Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon.com. Stephanie Miller of the Ice. No, it's, Sexy Liberal of the Icing. Of the Icing. All right. Check it out. And so, we're talking all about Donald Trump, but unfortunately, we're not giving all the attention that's deserved by Bobby Jindal, right? Or Lindsey Graham.
Right.
I mean, the serious candidates out there,
Oh,
right?
God.
Lindsey.
It is.
Or Jim Gilmore.
Oh, Jim Gilmore.
Who just got in the race.
By the way, I think I speak for many of us when I say, who now? What? Who's this now?
Well, what I want to see is a Jim Gilmore, George Pataki debate for 17th place in the Republican field.
Yeah, don't you love that Pataki's the only one that spoke up about what Trump said about Mexicans, and everyone's like, oh, is he still in the race? Who's that guy? Who's that guy? Yeah. I mean, that's what, and Hillary pointed it out, but that was, to me, the most disgusting thing is nobody said anything on the Republican side until they, I guess saw how it played out in public, right? Or they didn't react until, all these businesses started cutting ties with him. That's a profile in political courage, right?
Yeah, well, the point that Hillary made the other day in her interview, I think so important, is take all the outlandish comments from Donald Trump, out of the equation if you can. They still all share the same position on immigration. They only for border enforcement. They don't want a path to citizenship.
Right.
So,
No, right when Rick Perry and a bunch of them said, "Oh, this doesn't reflect the Republican Party." Yeah, it does.
It does. It absolutely does.
Yeah, it does actually.
He wouldn't be second in the polls if it didn't.
I was just going to say exactly right. You look at how he's coming up in the polls. Now, listen. The other thing we got to say. Isn't it fun to see? I know you're correct the record, but I still say it's fun to see Bernie Sanders and all the crowds that he's getting.
Oh God! I'm sure you've had Bernie on. I have too.
Yeah,
and I mean, what I love is that people are responding to Bernie's ideas. These candidates on the right are crackpots. Bernie's ideas are actually really popular mainstream ideas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love the fact that he has said, I'm not going to attack Hillary. Mm-hmm. Hillary's obviously not going to attack him.
Right.
There's a real exchange of ideas here. She agrees with many, if not most, of his ideas. We got to say that. But it's
I can't wait for our debates. They're going to be like reasoned, thoughtful discussions about the issues. Theirs are going to be like someone's going to choke on their own tongue.
They may actually put our debates may actually put a lot of people to sleep because they will be substantive. I don't know. I don't know if the first Donald Trump debate we'll actually call substantive, but we'll see.
It'll just be Trump and Chris Christie yelling at each other to shut up.
Shut up, sit down.
This assumes, by the way, that's a good question. That presumes that Chris Christie will be on stage.
Oh, I know.
I don't know whether he's in the top 10.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to take a look at the list, and they're polling now. I gotta say this: I'm obviously not a fan of the RNC or Reince Priebus, but boy, what a mess they had in their hands. I don't know how they could have sorted this out. You can't have 17 people on on stage, but 10 for 60 minutes. I mean, who's going to get anything substantive in?
And if Christie doesn't get in, it'll be further disruption. He'll be like at the window, like in The Graduate. Just, no!
He'll have a corn dog knocking on the window. Let me in!
Thunk, thunk, thunk. Hilarious.
Oh, man, I got to tell you. Right. Well, I guess are we stuck at 17? Can we round up a few more candidates?
Well, you would hope so.
Yeah,
I think there is going to isn't what's his name? Gilmore's going to be 17, and then I think isn't Scott Walker? I think, and then somebody else isn't
Scott
quite.
Walker
is it
and Kasich.
Yeah, I don't know if they're in the count.
Right.
Oh,
they're
right.
Not in yet.
They're not
15,
in the count.
16,
Okay,
15,
there you go.
17, right? So I don't know. Well, yes, I this is not the party of your father, Stephanie Miller, right?
No.
Not the party. I mean, you have to say Barry Goldwater, as far right as he was, right? He was right on a lot of issues, right?
Oh, he'd be way too liberal. Are you kidding?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He'd be running to the left of Bernie in the Democratic primary.
Ronald Reagan
would
be too liberal for this crowd.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Think about
that. That's the irony of them invoking Reagan. Of course, you see it a little less as each election comes, but the invoking of Reagan, and he'd be a liberal in this crowd.
Right? Don't you love how the adults in the room, all the sugar daddies like Foster Friess and the Koch brothers, they're all like trying to get the kids to behave. They're like, stop! No, the Reagan rule. Don't speak ill of each other. And meanwhile, they're just like ripping each other apart on Twitter every day. It's hilarious. We can just sit back, or
Yeah, that's true.
Donald Trump says, "Don't speak ill of other Republicans." That's what I do.
That's right.
That's what I do. Yeah. Well, Stephanie. Stephanie, congratulations again, babe. I'm just so proud of you, so happy for you. Again, it is Sexy Liberal on Amazon, Amazon.com, and the Stephanie Miller Show coming up in just 15.
There you go. I better get dressed.
All right. Love you.
Maybe I'll stay naked and sell more books.
The Naked Interview with Stephanie Miller. Brad Woodhouse here as a friend of Bill, and we'll wrap things up when we come back with your help at 866-55-PRESS. I just see President Lindsey Graham on CNN.
Exactly. Right there.
Yeah.
And
he's not going to be on the stage August 6th.
It doesn't sound like it. Doesn't sound like it.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
11 minutes before the top of the hour, Brad Woodhouse, friend of Bill, president of Americans United for Change, still,
correct,
and
yes,
also
absolutely.
correct the record, here in studio with us. Brad, enough about Donald Trump. So I want to talk about Bernie Sanders. 10,000 people in Madison, Wisconsin, 2,500 in Council Bluffs, 7,000 up in Portland, Maine the other night. What's going on?
Well, look, there's a energy behind these progressive issues. I mean, which I think is good for the Democratic Party. In fact, and I think Hillary said this the other day, that a competitive primary is good. But the energy behind progressive issues, this country is moving in a progressive direction. There's no doubt about it. And it may, you'll hear, we'll win the election in 2016. And, the Republican commentators will go on TV and they'll say, yeah, well, the Democrats won another presidential election, but this is a center-right country. Bill, it's not a center-right country. It's a center-left country. We see everything moving in that direction. And I think what you see in the energy behind Bernie Sanders and there's plenty of energy behind Hillary Clinton. She's organized in all counties in Iowa. Is that our issues are ascendant in this country, and I think he really reflects and has been consistent on a lot of those issues over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He is today who he was 50 years ago, in a sense. Economic populism has been his dominant theme when he was mayor of Burlington.
And look, some of it's quite...
As a House member and as a senator.
And look, some of it's fun. There are these T-shirts that are just the silhouette of his hair. And look, you really would have to know who Bernie Sanders is to know. But, I mean, that's just a really kind of, that's kind of a cool...
Feel the burn.
It's kind of a cool thing.
So,
look,
I have to ask, is Correct the Record of an official part of the Clinton campaign?
Well, it's not an official part of the campaign. What it was Correct the Record was part of an organization that I ran until recently called American Bridge. Correct the Record rolled out, became its own super PAC. Interestingly, on the coordinated side, most people think of super PACs as being on the side of the political wall or the legal wall where they can't talk, where they can't talk to the campaigns. But we're not going to be running television ads, at least of any import, and so we can talk to the campaign. Obviously, we're not part of the campaign, but we are supporting Hillary. So yeah.
All right, I just asked you that initial question because what I wanted to get at was. From you talk to the campaign,
absolutely, yeah.
Are they worried? Is the Hillary campaign worried about Bernie Sanders?
Well, I will. I'll take what Jen Palmieri said publicly as the impression that I have is that I think any campaign has to operate in a sense of worry about their opponents. Otherwise, you get caught. You get caught napping, and so I think. I think they, she said that they're worried about Bernie Sanders. I take her at their word.
Do you think that there are going to be more media interviews now? Hillary Clinton will be giving more media interviews now. She gave one the other day.
Well, I think so.
To CNN.
I think so, and I thought she performed very well. I mean, and she was she was confident. She had her answers down. She was prepared for. She's prepared for every question. I think the more of these interviews she does, the more she will exhaust the media and the public on these non-controversies. I mean, Bill, this has really gotten ridiculous. You hear some Republicans suggest that they should shut down the Clinton Foundation. For what? For what? Because she was Secretary of State and the Clinton Foundation was doing international work. They're helping people all over the world. It's one of the most successful foundations fighting AIDS in Africa and helping women and women's equality across the globe. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So I do believe she'll do more interviews. I don't have any inside knowledge of that, but I mean, I think they kind of telegraphed that this was the trajectory of the campaign: small events, local interviews, national interviews.
I think she does. She does well in those interviews, and the more she does, the better. As far as
that's exactly right.
My advice would be let Hillary be Hillary.
Yeah,
she can handle it for sure.
You know what she can handle? The Bill Press Show.
All right. So if you can handle that, you can handle anything. Brad Woodhouse, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Great
Good to see you.
We'll see you again soon.
All right,
and I'll be back. Wrap things up. Parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, one thing for sure about Donald Trump we've been talking about, every day he loses another sponsor. 2 days ago it was the PGA. Yesterday it was Chef Jose Andres pulling his planned restaurant out of Trump's new Washington, D.C. hotel. But while the corporate community's been quick to respond, where's the political community? Where's the Republican Party? Where's Reince Priebus, the Republican National Chair, John Boehner, or Mitch McConnell? Despite criticism from a few Republican candidates, Trump is still a Republican candidate for president. He'll still be in the debates. He'll still be on the ballot. Before he embarrasses them even further, it's time for the leaders of the Republican Party to repudiate Donald Trump and throw him out of the party. Show the party it has some sense of decency. Dump Trump. That's what they ought to do. Hey, Sabrina Siddiqui will be here tomorrow as a friend of Bill and a guest host. Have a great Thursday, folks. Come back tomorrow.
This is the Bill Press Show.